Hello, everybody. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants from the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. John Schmeelk, Lance Medow with you. Hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. We'll take your calls a little bit later on in the show at 201-939-4513. We've talked a ton about the draft, and now we're getting a feel here, Lance, of what the Giants' actual roster this year that they're going to head to camp with and eventually hit the regular season with is going to look like. So now we'll start turning the page a little bit. We'll still have, believe it or not, 3 more weeks of no OTAs. They don't start to the last week of May. So we got some time to fill here, folks, would be the theme. And we're going to start taking a look at the Giants roster. We'll do a more general look today, and then we'll try to key in on some things over the course of the next couple of weeks. So, Lance, first of all, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. Absolutely. Good to see you. And I'm completely with you. I would echo your sentiments. This is now a bit of the quiet period after the busyness of the draft, and now we sort of anticipate a little bit of a build-up towards the early stages of June, because at this point they're not really doing much activity.
No media availability,
to the football field. Yeah.
No nothing.
Exactly.
Next week we will get the schedule, so at least we'll have that to bang around for a couple of days, which will be fun. And then you got at least some stuff at OTAs and minicamp, and then we'll hit the other slow period from middle of June or end of June to the middle towards the end of July, when, again, there's just not a whole lot going on. We will take a week or two off during that period as well. Pearson wants to tie it off. I know, he's so spoiled. But that. But, again, we'll carry for the next 3 months, try to, a couple months, 2.5. We'll try to do some fun stuff with you. We'll do our team previews. We'll do some other stuff as well. And stay tuned to the end of the show for a special segment, which I think you probably won't enjoy, but I know Pearson will, so we'll get to that at the end of the program. All right, 201-939-4513. But I don't want your mic on yet. You pipe down over there.
I have to defend myself.
Yeah,
here.
Defend yourself, Pearson. I'm in your corner.
Were you working from home a couple days last week?
I did.
It's
yeah,
nice.
But
that sounds nice.
Based on the number of podcasts I delivered, was I actually working from home?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah. Thank you. Sadly, I had plumbers in my house for 5 hours on what was that? Friday. And if you guys know what plumbers charge per hour,
oh yeah,
that was not fun.
What was the issue?
We had a few different things. We had our spigot outside with the hose was leaking.
Okay.
So, but you can't just replace the spigot. You also replace the pipe heading out to the spigot, and then they had to do it. It was a whole
One thing leads to another.
So there was that, and then when we moved into the house, instead, people have like the Brita filters usually to filter the water. We had an under the sink system, so it kind of goes through those little like filters under the sink and goes back up. Well, there was one in the house when we moved in, and it finally broke, so we had to get a new one. And I looked at it for about 5 minutes, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this.
No, I don't suggest and recommend you do that.
So the plumbers came in. They did the spigot outside. There was a toilet that was running too. They had to fix that. And then they had the filter system under the sink that they had to do. And then it's funny, I walked in about 30 minutes after they started doing it. I'm like, yeah, I would have had no shot at this.
Well, with their parts everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the floor, yeah.
And the guy goes,
exactly.
You probably would have called this in about 20 minutes. And I go, no, you're wrong. I would have been yelling and screaming for 20 minutes, and then I would have called you. That's correct. Yeah. So that was not fun. But we do, by the way, we did Kurt Warner late last week. Is that up yet, Pearson? No. But it will be up at the end of the day today.
Should be up by like 2 or 3.
So that'll be up in the afternoon. We did Kurt Warner last week. We got Corey Black's head coach, Mike Gundy, from Oklahoma State. So that'll be coming your way as well. And if you guys haven't checked it out, look at that Chase Daniel, John Settle podcast that we had go up end of last week, too. A lot of stuff on Jackson Dart coming up next couple of weeks that I think you guys will really enjoy. All right, but for today, and we'll finally get to the point here, we're going to break down and rank what we think the Giants' best position groups are. We did this last year. Lance and I had very different rankings last year, which I think was fun. We'll do it again this year. We'll see where we're at. And then we'll take your calls. We'd love to get your rankings on what you think the Giants' best position group is, what their maybe the group that needs the most help might be, and then we'll go from there. So, Lance, just to talk about the basis of what I did here, I had 3 major categories that I looked at in each group, and this is, I think, my order of importance as well. So, is there a difference maker in the group? That was the first one. Do you have a star that's going to make a difference in that group?
Yep.
That, to me, was the most important thing for me. Number 2, this was the second most important thing. Is there a hole in the starting lineup where you're like, I don't know how good this guy is? Number 3, is there a concern with depth? Those are, and the fourth one that was kind of a little bonus, is there a young player with promise that you're developing? I kind of like that to be part of the mix too. But those are my 3 major criteria when I looked at each one of these groups.
Yeah, I would boost number 3. I think 3 is
I know
critical.
you would.
Well, listen, it's a favorite term of mine, but there's substance behind it, both literally and figuratively speaking.
And this is why our ranking is going to be a little bit different, which is good.
Because think about it. I try to look at this exercise also as worst case scenario, Armageddon. You have to act like that. And first of all, everybody's going to stay healthy for all 17 games, okay? I understand there's optimists out there, but even the ideal optimist has to come to the realization all 11 starters on either side of the ball, they're not playing all 17 games. So if you don't feel good about the third and fourth player, depending on how many starters you have at a given position, yeah, I'd say that position's in trouble, John. So I looked at that as really number one. And then, yes, I took into consideration, is there an all-pro caliber player in the mix? Is there a difference maker? Is there a guy that defenses need to think about, or vice versa, offenses need to game plan around? That's the two key pieces of criteria that I focused on when I put these rankings together.
And by the way, if you're watching this streaming on YouTube or on the Giants app, you like our new fancy LRAP that we have in there. So we started that for the draft. Now we're going to have it in there. And eventually we're going to put Pearson to work and put some really cool stuff in that bottom tracker thing.
He's thrilled, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell.
He's always looking to do more.
So enthusiastic.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have enough computer screens in front of him right now.
Yes.
I think we could add a graphics computer on top of that.
At least there's tons of space in here.
That's true. Yeah. Well, because today you don't have 75 people on top of you, Pearson, so we could breathe a little bit in this room.
All right. Well, why don't you go one, and then I'll go two, and then we'll kind of go back and forth.
Okay. Sure.
So who's
my
your
honor
top
and my
one?
pleasure. Really how much you put thought into allowing me to go first.
Yes.
I greatly appreciate it. Well, number one on my list is edge. That's where I went
me too.
In terms of starting the positional rankings. And it goes back to the criteria that we talked about. You've got Brian Burns, who to me is a difference maker. He's a guy that draws the attention of the opposing offensive line. Then depth. Okay, well, you got Kayvon Thibodeau. I really like the addition of Chauncey Golston. I think that's one of their most underrated free agent signings this year because he was coming off a breakout campaign with the Cowboys, and you're not asking him to come in and be a monster, but you know what? If Golston could give you 4.5 to 5 sacks this season and be a rotational productive player, hey, mission accomplished. Another guy that I wouldn't overlook is Victor Dimukeje, who had a breakout year 2 years ago, and if you noticed about his numbers, it's not so much on the line of what he did over 16, 17 games. It's what he did with respect to his snap count. He's also an underrated guy if he can carve out a roster spot. And two guys that they brought in, to me, are interchangeable. Jeremiah Ledbetter has played both positions.
I would slide him to defensive tackle if I were. Yeah.
Roy Robertson Harris also has been interchangeable.
I was talking. I would put both those guys at DT.
Okay,
I think
that's fine.
I was talking. The only reason is I talked to somebody last week about it, and they see Roy Robertson Harris is kind of like that 3 technique type, and they see Ledbetter as the backup to Dexter at nose tackle. Believe it or not.
Okay.
So I would slide him into the defensive tackle category.
That's fine. I mean, I look at what both of them did specifically in Jacksonville, and Roy Robertson Harris was with Seattle last season. I have him penciled in next to Dex as the main guy to start.
Correct.
But Ledbetter, to me, is a guy that has a lot of time at defensive end throughout the course of his career. So that's why I was willing to throw him in there. But once again, I'm going to now the 5th, 6th guy on the depth chart.
You're missing one important guy there, by the way.
In terms of edge?
Yes.
Well, the guy that they just drafted.
Yes, he's not on your list.
No, I know. Well,
it's
remember,
kind of important.
Well, no. I know the rookies like the back of my hand, so I'm not too overly concerned. This is only a preliminary list. You're looking at it.
Made sure he had Victor Dimukeje on the list.
Well,
Abdul Carter,
Well, first of all, in fairness, Abdul Carter has not played one snap in the NFL. I don't give guys the benefit of the doubt in this exercise because you can't assume that a guy's going to come in and all of a sudden take the league by storm. That's not how the league operates. So that's another reason why he wasn't on this list.
I'm with you, though.
Yes.
I think your breakdown is strong. I would certainly put Abdul Carter on there. I think when all's said and done, he might have the second most snaps at that position group over the course of the year. You have two guys that you can single team on the outside, or if you do it at your own peril. Kayvon Thibodeau can beat single teams as well. And I'm with you. I think Chauncey Golston was an underrated guy here. And I'm also going to include him in my defensive tackle group.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be a 3 technique pass rusher.
Sure.
I think Roy Robertson Harris is probably more of an early down player at 3 technique, and then Golston will be a guy that reduces into there on pass rushing down.
Specifically third downs, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go with my group here. I'll go with number 2. I went running back here, Lance. And I think Tyrone Tracy has the talent to be a very good running back. There's no all-pro Pro Bowler in this group, at least not yet. I love Scam Scatterboot coming out of the draft. Again, guy that can do everything. And then I think Devin Singletary is somebody that can do everything too. So you have 3 running backs in that group, one a reliable veteran, one a young veteran in Tracy heading into a second year, and then a rookie in Scadaboo. 3 guys that are really interchangeable to me. You can put any one of those 3 on the field on any down and feel good about it. Whether it's pass pro, receiving, rushing, they're all complete running backs. And if one goes down and you got to go to war with the other 2 guys as just as a 2-headed, monster in the backfield, you could do that too. So I think you feel good about maybe not an extremely high ceiling of play, but a better than average running back starter, along with good depth, a veteran, and there's no hole. So I think while maybe nothing, knocks you off your chair, I think the group it's a very safe group, and you're going to get very good production out of the group, no matter which one of those 3 guys is in the lineup.
Yeah, I had running back 3.
Okay,
so,
good.
I mean, we were in the same vicinity. I would share a lot of the same sentiments that you just threw out. Plus, I wouldn't overlook. I mean, we don't know how many guys are going to make the roster, but I think there's still potential with Eric Gray and also Turbo, who is still a young player, too. So there's actually guys behind the top 3 that you listed that, I would be okay if they made it as the 3rd or 4th running back. There's at least some potential there. Singletary has had starting experience where he could carry the load. We know what Tyrone Tracy could do based on a very productive rookie year. And Cam Scadaboo was probably one of my favorite picks, if not the most favorite pick, especially once you get into the middle later rounds because of his collegiate resume and the versatility that he brings to the table, not just his power running, but also his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. So that's why I put running back in the same territory,
That's fair.
but I had them number 3.
Okay. What's your number 2 then?
Number 2 on my list, maybe a surprise to some, but it goes back to what we were talking about. I had offensive tackle as number 2.
Okay.
And Andrew Thomas is an all-pro player.
By the way, this is where it gets tough. Like, this was not an easy exercise for
No,
me.
not at all.
I thought it was very difficult.
You go backwards and forwards, and there's no right or wrong answers, remember, in this exercise. It's to each their own in terms of how they view players and so forth. But Andrew Thomas, unlike the running back group, okay, you have an all-pro. Now, you hope he could stay healthy, but, hey, I don't have a crystal ball.
And, Lance, I had them at 4, and the Andrew Thomas injury stuff made me drop him to 6.
And that's understandable. I get that.
I can't. He just hasn't stayed on the field consistently enough.
Yeah. The reason why I elevated tackle was I think they have some options behind the starters, guys that have starting experience, not guys that you drafted and you're hoping for something. You're talking about players that have also been interchangeable a little bit, right tackle, left tackle. I'm talking about James Hudson and Stone Forsythe. And in previous years, more often than not, the Giants had been relying on, John, somebody that maybe they had drafted in the mid to later rounds. They were hoping would make a jump. And Josh Azudu, I'll throw into this category too. So I think there's a little bit more proven talent at this position to make me feel not overwhelmingly confident, but God forbid Andrew Thomas or Jermaine Illuminor goes down and you need a spot start or 2 from one of those other guys, that you're not throwing a guy into a baptism by fire situation. You're turning to somebody that at least has been out there, not as a swing guy, but that has had a number of games under their belt, and those, of course, are Hudson and Forsythe. So that's what changed my philosophy this year, maybe, as opposed to us having this conversation at this time last year.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've seen enough from James Hudson yet, because I just haven't seen him up close and personal to be like, all right, you have to start him, you're great. I know the Browns let him walk, right? He could have been their swing tackle, and they let him walk out the door for not an exorbitant, if the reports are correct, exorbitant amount of money. So I want to see more with him, but I'm with you. They're kind of in this middling group that I was going back and forth on. Okay, my number 3 now I'm up to, right? I'm going to go defensive tackle. And again, the emphasis here is you have Dexter Lawrence there, who might be the best defensive tackle in football, which is a huge part of this. And even though maybe you can argue that you don't know who the second starter is, really. And again, the Giants are in nickel most of the time, so I'm considering not the 3-man line. I'm thinking about the 2-man line, right? You might not know who that second guy is every down, so I think maybe there is a little bit of a gap in that starting lineup. But you already mentioned a couple of the players. You have Ledbetter, you have Roy Robertson Harris, you have the young developmental guy in Darius Alexander that I think you really like. I like, again, on third downs, Chauncey Goldston reducing into a 3-technique pass rusher, so I'll include him in that group here because I think he will get a significant amount of time as a pass rusher on third downs. And then, you have other young guys. DJ Davidson still here. Jordan Riley's still here. Casey Rogers is still here. And then Nacho, the veteran, still here. There's just so much depth here, Lance, that I leaned into the depth argument with this one. So you nailed 2 out of 3 on this one, which is why they landed in the third spot for me. You got the superstar, and then you have a ton of depth. So that's why they kind of push their way into the 3 spot for me.
They were number 5 for me.
Okay.
My concern with this position group is not volume. My concern is, and we saw this last season, when Dex gets hurt, is there somebody that moves the needle, John, enough? And I understand realistically you're not going to get an all-pro, but are you going to get somebody that can up the ante in terms of the sack total, can help collapse the pocket, not just a guy that's going to stop the run? I'm just not seeing it on paper yet, and that's what concerns me. So my hesitancy with this group was more of the lack of production at the pass rushing position within the defensive tackle group, and that's why I held them back. They made the top 5, which is an accomplishment in its own, based on my very tough standards, but I need to see somebody. If you got to a situation where Dex, not to say he's going to miss the season, but let's say he misses 4 to 5 games, are you going to get a drop-off like we saw last season? And
no, that's
my
not.
answer right now is I would be concerned about that drop-off.
Okay, so my top 3 are edge, running back, defensive tackle. You have edge at 1, offensive tackle at 2, running back at 3. So let's use your number 4 position now.
This is a big jump from last year. Quarterback, I have number 4. And one is I think they made a really big upgrade based on the personnel. Russell Wilson, okay, he's not necessarily an all-pro at this stage of his career, but he has a wealth of experience. I mean, you could take everybody on the roster last year, combine them, and Russ still runs circles around them. But you have a good guy that protects the football and is a good decision maker, and that to me counts for a lot. Jameis Winston is another guy with a lot of experience, and then you have the grooming potential in Jackson Dart. So I think where they are on paper, at least this year, compared to where they were last year, is night and day. And I also took that into consideration why I moved them up immensely.
Yeah, I think they were 11 for me last year or something like that. I have them at 7, so I'm with you. I have them right in the kind of the middle of the group here. Because, again, you don't have a difference maker. There's not a hole in the starting lineup, Lance. Remember, the Steelers, though, could have brought Russell Wilson back. They chose not to.
Yeah.
And then the depth is great. So you have 2 guys that have started the game teams. And then, again, I'm going to give a little bonus to the group because you have the young quarterback you're developing, because I like that as part of the mix. So I'm with you. I have them at number 7. I think I feel better about the room in total than I have here probably since Eli was backed up by Geno Smith. I think it's probably as good as I felt about the group since that time, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, in terms of the starting experience for numbers 1 and 2 on the depth chart.
Okay, so that's your 4. My number 4, and I have the quarterbacks at 7. My number 4 is safety. And I'm leaning in here because I think you do have a difference maker in Javon Holland. He doesn't have the hardware yet to show that in terms of the Pro Bowls and the All-Pro, but I believe he can be that type of player. So maybe I'm anticipating a little bit here rather than going off track record, which is fine. I think Tyler Newman getting into his second year as an ascending player. The reason safety did not get higher is that, how about the depth? Behind them, you have Dane Belton, who's played a bunch. He hasn't proven he can start. And then after that, I mean, Giant fans, I know the names, but if I polled, 100 Giant fans that called into the show, Lance, and I listed them: Anthony Johnson Jr., Raheem Lane, Makari Page, and Tommy McCormick, how many Giant fans would know more, and heck, one of those guys, and be very familiar with them?
I'd say very slim, if not none. Heck,
Correct.
If those 3 guys walked down the streets of Manhattan.
They walked down the hallway here.
That's true. I was trying to maybe, expand our horizons a little. If they walked down some random street in Manhattan and you had the most diehard Giants fans that you could come up with, I would still be confident that the diehard Giants fans would not recognize them.
And I should note, by the way, 2 of those names are reported additions as undrafted rookie free.
Yeah.
I'm just reading off the Our Lads depth chart here. The Giants have not confirmed any of those guys yet as undrafted guys. That list usually not released until the morning of the start of minicamp on Friday.
Sure. Yeah.
So I wouldn't hold your breath on that, guys. But again, I'm just going off the depth chart here. So again, I think depth's an issue there, Lance, for safety, but I really love the 2 starters so much I was willing to put them up here at number 4.
Yeah, and I had safety in the same vicinity. Safety was just outside my top 5. I have them as number 6.
Okay.
But I'm just as concerned about you as the depth. I mean, the fact that Dane Belton can at least be somebody that can be thrown in the event that Holland or Newman gets hurt makes you feel somewhat comfortable because Belton has been exposed to snaps in previous years. But if you lose 2 of these guys, John, I mean, that is a huge question mark, a huge wild card. So I like the potential of Holland, but remember, it's a proven commodity. Holland is a really good player, but at least from a recognizable standpoint across the league, he hasn't gotten the recognition yet compared to a Dexter Lawrence or an Andrew Thomas, some of the other proven commodities that we were talking about. So that's why I wasn't willing to boost up safety. They're just outside my top 5.
Okay, so we've talked about all of your top 6 right now, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so my number 5 has not been mentioned yet. So let me give that, because that's what your next one is too. And then I'll let you take a lead on it. But my number 5 is wide receiver. They are your number 7, if I'm seeing that correctly, right?
Yep.
And why don't you take the lead on this, and then I'll kind of follow up on it. Why do you have receiver at 7?
Well, receiver is 7 for me because of concerns about depth. I'd say that's the number 1 question mark. You've got Neighbors, you have Slade, and you have Robinson. Behind those 3, John, they did bring in Zach Pascal and Little Jordan Humphrey. Okay, you got some veterans, but those 2 in particular haven't necessarily been wow-me guys at their previous stops for a variety of reasons, whether it's injury, opportunity, you name it. They're going with some young potential outside of those 2. So you look at Wan'Dale Robinson, hasn't been the poster child of health. Darius Slayton has dealt with some injuries in his career. You know, Neighbors has only had 1 year under his belt.
You're missing Jalen Hyatt on your list there.
Yeah, Hyatt too is another guy. But, once again, Hyatt and his snap counts last season.
I understand.
Where does he fit in?
Mm-hmm.
I think he alone is an interesting conversation we could talk about before even discussing the rest of the receiver position. So he gets thrown into the depth conversation, which right now may have bodies and volume, but not a lot of substance behind that. So that's why wide receivers to me was 7. Remember, this exercise is not about Neighbors is great. He's a special player. But one guy alone doesn't necessarily rescue an entire position group, and you have to at least think through that lens.
And I think that's probably why they got pushed up a little bit more for me, because that's my number 1 criteria. Is there a difference maker? That's why they got the 5 to me for 7 for you. My concern here, Lance, is that they just re-signed Darius Slayton. He's a really good player. But if you look at what the reported contract is on him, his salary is in line for what a number 3 wide receiver would normally make, right? Maybe even a little bit less. Like, look what Gabe Davis's contract is. He's a number 3, all right? And then compare that to Darius. Darius is making a little bit less than that even, right? So they don't have a true number 2. Like, Wan'Dale hasn't proven he's a legit number 2 wide receiver yet. I love Wan'Dale. He's great, but he hasn't put up that consistent production year to year yet. And again, Slayton has proven that he's really good at what you want him to do. But again, look what the market just was for him. It was the market of a number 3 wide receiver. Number 2 wide receivers in the National Football League now are making $20 million. Like, that's what it is. Some making 30. Go talk to Jalen Waddle and T. Higgins, right? So I don't know if you have that number 2 that's going to consistently make you pay if you pay too much attention to Neighbors. So that's kind of where I'm looking at here. You have Hyatt. I think you can still develop him a little bit. You mentioned a couple of the bigger vets that are also going to be special teams players like Pascal and Little Jordan Humphrey, who I think could be nice players. And again, Little Jordan Humphrey getting up to playing some tight end. We'll see about that. I don't know. But so that's why I have them at 5. I'm just worried about the lack of a true, like, tried and true number 2. Like, just look at the division. Deebo Samuel's the number 2 receiver for the Commanders. Devontae Smith is the number 2 wide receiver for the Eagles. Yep. Now, the Cowboys also lacking a true number 2. In fact, I'd argue I think the Giants receiver core is actually better than Dallas's right now. I think, Slayton has more pelts on the wall than whoever the number 2 is in Dallas's wide receiver room. So, but again, that's what I would say looking at that wide receiver room. As much as I love the players and I think they'll do a nice job, you don't have somebody that's proven that they're like a pure number 2 wide receiver yet.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys, you're looking at Jalen Tolbert, who has shown some flashes. He's their 3rd-round pick from 2022, and they acquired Jonathan Mingo, remember, from the Carolina Panthers late last season.
Who's done less than,
Correct.
I would put Mingo in kind of the Hyatt category, right? They're kind of like third-year guys that are still trying
sort
to
of
figure it
looking
out.
for that potential. And then Kevontae Turpin, who's been a special teamer, but he's also been a speedster that they've utilized on offense. So you could say there's question marks after C.D. Lamb. I don't think that's a stretch at all. I mean, they're also looking for, maybe some of their younger guys through the pipeline to maybe have an opportunity to steal some snaps here or there. But the way that I would look at, just to add to what you said with respect to the Giants receiving core is, and let's stay in the division. If you are Dallas's defensive coordinator, Washington's DC, and Philadelphia's DC, and you're playing the Giants this week, okay? And you're talking to your entire secondary, and you're going through the scouting report, and you're saying, okay, guys, this is what we need to be aware of when we're playing the Giants. You're going to point out things about Russell Wilson and his tendencies. You're going to say, okay, this is what Neighbors does. We really need to maybe roll a safety over, give him attention. I don't think you're necessarily having an entire dissertation on Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. And that's not a disrespect to those guys. It's just they're not putting fear in the eyes of specifically the division opposition where they're staying up late at night, John, and they're overly concerned about how those two guys are going to be backbreakers.
I think you would say watch out for their speed.
That's fine.
Slayton and Hyatt specifically, because they can win over the top, but otherwise, yes, I'm with you. All right, I think the funny thing here, Lance, our top sevens are both the same. So the same 7 positions are in each of our top 7s, which means we're in agreement on what the bottom 4 position groups are. And this was kind of where the cutoff point was for me, where I felt really good about quarterback at 7, and then I had trouble ordering these final 4. I don't know if that's kind of how you felt with it too.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
So I'll go with my number 8 since you led off with wide receivers last. My 8th position here is guard center, and for a few reasons. One, I don't think there is a hole in the starting lineup, right? Greg Van Roten showed he can be a good starter last year. John Runyon showed he can be a good starter last year. We'll see about John Michael Schmitz if he keeps getting better. But there's not a gaping hole there where you're like, oh boy, this is going to murder you. But there's no difference maker right now. There's not one Pro Bowl.
Yep. All pro.
Or pro in the group, right? And then I feel okay about the depth, which is why I think I pushed them ahead of the other 3 guys. Aaron Stinney's been in the league a long time. He's played a lot. I think Jake Kubas is somebody that could elevate himself to one of the primary backups this year. They loved his development last year. They're very high on him in the building. You have a young developmental player in Marcus Bowe. And then, again, maybe this is me being too optimistic. I still believe that Evan Neal could be a good guard. I think with his movement ability, his size, and his strength, he has it in him to be a good guard in the National Football League. We'll see if that develops. We'll see if he can actually stay healthy for an offseason where he can work on this. That's been a big problem with him, guys. He hasn't been able to work in the offseason because he's always hurt. He hasn't been able to develop. So I went guard center here at number 8 because I like the depth, Lance, even though you don't have those difference makers at the top.
Yeah, and the lack of the difference makers, I guess, was what held this group back for me. I have them 10th on the list.
10 of 11. Okay.
Yeah, 10 of 11. I'm not as optimistic about the depth, perhaps, as you painted it. Not to say that they don't have volume and options, but, Evan Neal, we have never seen play guard in the NFL. So that's you banking on things. Bo hasn't played one NFL snap. Aaron Stinney is a veteran player, but there's a reason why he's been limited in terms of opportunities throughout his career. I think Greg Van Roten proved that he can be a starter. I guess when I was going through the offensive line, my feeling was Andrew Thomas, even with the injury concern, has proven that he can be a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber player. John Michael Schmitz, between the injury concern still and even at his finest, full health, has not proven that he can be an all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber player. Sure. So that was also part of my thinking as to why I had them 10th out of 11.
No, and that's fine. All right, so why don't you go to your number 8 then?
Yeah, 8th for me was cornerback. The addition of Paulson
They were 9
and
for
Debo,
me, by the way. So right there.
So basically in the same category, same vicinity. Deonte Banks, who clearly has shown some potential. You still want to see some more consistency. Drew Phillips, I think, is an ascending potential player. Cordell Flott has experience. And, Corey Black, who they just recently drafted. But, I'll focus more on the top heaviness of this group. Debo and Banks, I think you feel good about your 2 edge cornerbacks. Phillips at the slot. Flott is a guy that can move around. These are not 4 players where you're saying, what do we have in them? I think you've seen enough, at least on the field in the NFL, where you've got a good grasp of what you have in this group. You certainly want to see better consistent production, but
especially from Banks, and I think
without a doubt,
that's where I look on this one.
Well, that's the guy of all that you'd circle, and in fairness, listen, Debo's a nice addition, but he's coming off an injury, and whether or not he can hold up has to be in the back of your mind. But if those 2 guys can stay on the field, I think there's at least some good upside in that group before you even entertain what is playing behind them.
I'm with you. I think, again, is there a difference maker? I don't think Adebo's ever made a Pro Bowl, right?
No,
If I'm
he's not.
mistaken.
No.
So you don't have a guy that would categorize as a difference maker.
Yep.
Drew Phillips, I think, has a chance to develop into one of the top slot corners. He's not there yet. Is there a hole in the starting lineup? Deonte Banks has to play better. I'm not willing to call that a hole, but am I walking around like testing the floor a little bit? Yeah.
You want to see more. Sure.
I want to test the floor. And look, they know Deonte Banks has to play better. I've seen him play better. I know he can play better. He's a very talented guy, and he cares. He's a good kid. I think he can play a lot better. Maybe with the, Coach Manuel in here, you can get some better play out of him and Jeff Burris at corners. You can kind of get more out of him as a defensive back. So, and again, just once you get past Flott, you have your top four. You have Corey Black, who's a 7th round pick.
Who's no guarantee to even make the team.
Trey Hawkins, Art Green, Nick Jones. These are guys where you don't know what they're going to give you, right? So that's why I have them at 9, because to your point, the depth past the top 4 is not great, and then you worry about your number 2 outside corner, which is part of it. And again, Cordo Flott has had trouble staying healthy too, so you can throw that into the mix there as well. All right, I will go with my number 10, because I had quarterback at 9, so I'm at my 10th position, and I have tight end there. At tight
Did you have
end.
quarterback at 9 or 7, I thought?
I had quarterback at 7.
Okay.
I said
cornerback. I'm sorry. I misheard
cornerback
you.
at 9.
Yes,
My bad.
gotcha.
Sorry. So
All good.
I had tight end at number 10. Again, no difference maker at that position. And is there a hole in the starting lineup? No. But, I mean, Theo Johnson's been in the league for a year, right? Daniel Bellinger's been in the league a couple years. You have Thomas Fidone, who I'm a huge fan of. I'm very high on him as a guy that can come in and do something. Chris Manhurst is a reliable blocking tight end you feel great about. So I think the depth here is very good, Lance. But you don't know if you have a top 20 starter in the league at this position yet. You just don't know what Theo Johnson is. You don't know what these young guys are yet. So that's why, to me, they're at number 10. I think Theo Johnson has a real good chance to be a really good two-way receiving, inline, blocking type of tight end that could do it all. But again, just 1 year in, end of the year injured. We'll have to see where he goes next year.
I had tight end at number 9. So once again, same area in terms of what you were talking about. Greg Dulcich is another guy I'd throw into the tight end position.
Yep.
Another veteran. Yeah, they have a cluster of players where you're not, once again, using my defensive coordinator conversation, you're not worried about the group overall, and even some of the individuals, that those are the guys you have to take away from the game plan, or that you're worried about them doing damage. But I think that they have at least options in the receiving game. They have options in terms of blocking at the line of scrimmage. And the tight end group doesn't have to be sexy by trade. Okay, you could get away if you just have a group of guys that can fill various roles, especially since, let's be realistic, okay? And this was how I was looking at the tight end position. There's only one ball to go around, okay? And Neighbors is going to get a lot of targets, I'm sure, this season.
Yes.
We're also going to see the running backs get some targets. We're going to see Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson get some targets. Theo probably, of all the tight ends, is the guy that you could bank on every game being involved in the game plan.
Yeah, I would say he would lead the group of targets for sure.
So outside of Theo, John, realistically speaking, who else, even if you had 2 other names that are more intriguing, are realistically going to play enough snaps and get enough targets at this point where I'm worried overwhelmingly about the tight end position? So if anything, I'm looking at this group, can the guys block? More so than can they run routes and do damage as a receiver? And that's why that thinking had them perhaps slightly higher than you did.
All right, and then I guess for both of us, the final position on our list is inside linebacker.
That is right.
Take it away.
Yeah. Well, you like Bobby Okereke until he got hurt last season, so there's a little bit of a concern there. Micah McFadden's been a staple, but, I mean, after those 2 guys, John, and you saw what happened when Okereke went down late last season. Darius Muasau has shown some flashes, but, I mean, we're talking about a very small, minute sample size. Deontay Johnson, an undrafted player who, made a significant jump out of Toledo. So, the jury is still out there. And then after that, it's basically, it would be the same thing as we were talking about with the safety position, if you had a lot of these other guys walk down a random street in Manhattan, I don't even think some of the diehards would recognize them.
Special teams guys, at least when they get before they got here,
Sure.
Flanagan Foles and Chris Board that have played mostly special teams. But heck, maybe they can step in and play linebacker too. I'm with you. And I'll just throw in long-term, Lance.
Ty Summers is another guy.
Ty Summers, yep. Last year of Micah McFadden's contract. Bobby Okereke, third year of a big contract he signed.
Yeah.
And Darius Musow, just second year as a rookie. So just moving ahead for the Giants, I think their biggest need still moving forward is to making sure you have that second really good guard across from Runyon, long-term solution at that position. You hope it's Evan Neal. If he can get a chance to do it this year, maybe he can develop into him. You re-sign him, he can do that. Greg Van Roten can start this year, but he's 33 years old, 34 years old, whatever he is. So that's not a long-term thing. And then inside linebacker, I think, would be another one. And then offensive tackle, just because Jermaine Illuminor is on the last year of his contract. And you got to figure out what you're doing at that spot. So those would be the three spots for me, Lance, that I would kind of keep an eye on in terms of like your next set of needs when you're thinking about the draft next year, that you're looking ahead into the future as positions that you kind of need to fill out a little bit. The reason I didn't put tight end in there is because you have so many young guys. I hope one of those guys steps up for you. I hope Deonte Banks at corner steps up, plays well. Then you don't have to worry about filling the spot at cornerback either. But those are the spots that I would kind of keep an eye on here. And then to kind of try to improve those spots moving forward.
Well, linebacker still needs to be a top priority. It was a position we talked about leading into the draft because, remember, they struggled mightily in stopping the run last season, John. And you could say, okay, well, the goal is if you have better play up front, then that alleviates the play of the linebackers.
Linebackers is part of
But
run
linebackers,
defense.
correct,
Absolutely.
is still critical. And you can't expect that every single play, the defensive line is going to stop the guy from penetrating. They're going to get to the second level of your defense. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen quite often. So that means that your linebackers better be in position to prevent that running back from getting to the third tier against the safety or the corner on the perimeter. And once again, if Okereke and McFadden go down and the Giants have to look at giving Musow and Johnson a lot more playing time, that could become troublesome and problematic. And that's where you can tell me all you want about the attractiveness of the guys up front and how they have options, but that goes away, John, quickly if there's no... I call the linebackers, those are your cleanup guys, okay? Those are the guys that wear the hard hats, okay? They bring their lunch pails to work every day, and they do the dirty work. It's not always flashy, it's not always sexy, but they do enough of the work that prevents a small issue from all of a sudden becoming a major problem. And if you don't feel good about the interior play of your linebackers, that could whittle away at the rest of the infrastructure, specifically of your defense. So I would put that position right now, even as we're evaluating it, miles ahead of what still remains a concern to me, as you pointed out, long-term interior guard play.
All right, let's get to your calls, folks. 201-939-4513. Again, my list just real quickly. Edge, running back, defensive tackle, safety, receiver, offensive tackle, quarterback, guard center, cornerback, tight end, linebacker. Lance, what was yours from top to bottom?
Mine is edge, offensive tackle, running back, quarterback, defensive tackle, safety, wide receiver, cornerback, tight end, guard center, rounded out by linebacker.
With another impactful draft and free agency class in the books, it means it's full steam ahead for the 2025 season, everybody. Take your fandom to the next level with the Giants season ticket membership and catch all the action at MetLife Stadium with an exciting home schedule on the horizon. Oh, there are a lot of really good teams coming into MetLife Stadium. That's absolutely true. With the membership, you'll also stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days, with exclusive member access and benefits. To learn more about a New York Giants season ticket membership, visit giants.com/tickets. All right, let's lead us off. Maurice Montclair has been holding the longest. Then we'll get to Joe and Chris. Maurice, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, guys? What's going on?
We're good.
Hey, man, listen, you guys touched on a lot of the things that I was going to reference, sort of like the linebacking depth and the offensive line. And primarily, you touched on something specific, John, that I really liked, me and my boys talked about, was the wide receivers as far as us not having, like, a significant number two guy. But here's the deal. While I was sitting back listening to you guys, this was also something on my mind. Can we figure out what Graham Gano is going to do? Is he going to be the guy? Can he kick? Can he actually kick? I love Graham, but I heard him, I think I heard him discuss something last season where he said, like, you know what, he didn't want to bail out. He wanted to uphold on the contract, and he wanted to fulfill that. But he dealt with injuries and a bumps and nicks and bruises. What's the deal with Graham? And I had one more, but you can just break that down for a second if you can.
Well, Maurice, I'll do it quickly. I don't really have much of an update on Graham yet. The guys are just entering phase 2 of their offseason workouts today, so they hit the field literally for the first time. I don't have an update on Graham, I got to be honest with you. Well, we'll get to talk to the players in a few weeks, Maurice, but as of now, the fact that Giants have not brought in another place kicker would intimate to me that they feel pretty good at moving forward with where they are with Graham, and I think that's kind of where we sit.
Though they could very well bring in another leg for training camp if they don't want to overwork Graham Gano. I wouldn't necessarily rule that out, but the fact that
Jude McAtomney's in the building as well, by the way.
So, I don't think that there's an overwhelming amount of concern given the fact that there wasn't a lot of dialogue about that in the offseason. I'm sure based on his injury, I don't know if he had any offseason procedure. I don't want to speak out of line, but I'm sure he took care of his body in any way possible given what he dealt with last season. And keep in mind, remember, it was early in the year, and those are the killers. When you get hurt early in the year and things linger, you don't have the time, even with a bye week, to overcome that. So, that's the big reason why last year was troublesome for him, because it happened relatively early in the year.
Got you. Okay. I just want to wrap up with saying this. Hey, John, I heard you say a few episodes ago, and I swear I loved it. You said that Abdul walked around with a swagger and an edge to him. No more choir boys. The Giants have done good thus far in the draft. Continue to bring in guys that has this mentality. And lastly, what was the last thing I was talking about? Oh, Joe Shane ain't done. I think Joe Shane ain't done. I think looking back at his track record, I feel like he's probably not done adding to the team. And, John, can you do me a favor because you're so good at it? Could you just give us, the listeners, a landscape of, what's out there left in free agency in case, Joe Shane wanted to go back in there and probably add a few assets?
Maurice, good question. I don't have that list in front of me. How about we save that for tomorrow's show? I think Paul and I will look for a topic for tomorrow. Why don't we tackle remaining free agents in the market? I think that might not be a bad idea. But the Giants will have to free up some money in order to make those signings based on some of the public available information out there. The Giants are pretty tight right now in terms of money they have available. So you would have to probably renegotiate a couple or just convert some money to signing bonus on guys like Dexter and Andrew Thomas and guys like that in order to make that work.
Well, and remember, if guys are still on the free agent market, there's a variety of reasons. Some, it's a product of they just don't want to be in camp. A lot of veterans think that way. But, others either maybe they had off-season surgeries. If you're a fan thinking that there's going to be a huge difference maker walking through that door at the beginning of July or late July for the start of training camp, I think you got to be a little bit more realistic in terms of how you think. You can even look at the roster, and every year is different. Last year, who came in at that time in the summer that you look back and say, wow, made a tremendous difference. Even go back a few years. Now, I'm trying to think of, in my mind, John, the only example that I could think of, and this is back, when the Giants added Leon Hall, the former Bengal secondary player, right? If you remember, that's the best example I could give you. When Leon came in, he was a nice late addition, and I thought he made an impact. But
I would say Greg Van Roten last year.
Okay.
Right?
Fair.
He didn't sign till, June? No, actually, it was late July, right? Greg Van Roten last year? He started 17 games. So that, to me, is the type of guy you're looking for. And if you look at the guys that are out there, it's, Lance, to your point, the veterans that probably are okay, not going off-season program stuff. I'll just go off of the spot track list real quick. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper at wide receiver, Shaq Mason, Brandon Sheriff on the offensive line, Matt Judon, Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith in terms of pass rushers. Von Miller is a pass rusher. He's going to retire, right, Von Miller?
He's at the tail end of his career.
We talk about wide receivers. There's rumors Amari Cooper might be going back to Dallas. I know Jerry Jones apparently would be a fan of that. But, Justin Simmons at safety, along with Marcus Williams. Those types of guys. Stephon Gilmore is a player that's signed
He may
late.
go back to Dallas, too, actually.
Oh, really?
There's been some talk, yeah.
Really? Even after they drafted Ravel? That's interesting.
Well, but there's been some talk, at least, that there's been some conversation. I'm not saying that anything's imminent, but it's possible.
Rasul Douglas is still a free agent. He's a good
Slot
player.
corner, yeah.
So there are some guys that are out there, but you're looking at kind of those veteran stopgap types as guys that can kind of come in and help you a little bit. So I think that's really what you're down to here. Now, there isn't a ton out there of guys that are really going to help you. 201-939-4513. Joe in Pennsylvania. Joe, I haven't heard from you in forever, man. What's going on?
Oh, I'm here and listening. Don't worry.
I'm happy you're. Don't, Joe. Honestly, I was worried about you. I'm happy you're well, man.
You don't have to worry about me. I just disappeared like Lance a little bit there. We're always here.
Were you guys hanging out together? Were you
No, I
guys
can
chilling?
tell you,
No, you
yeah.
weren't hanging out with Joe?
No, I can't speak for Joe's whereabouts.
So, I was very happy with the draft. I did see, the last time we drafted a number one defensive end and a number one defensive tackle, or a number two defensive tackle, you know who that was?
Let me think.
You're talking about when you say number one, meaning the first guy that went off the board in the draft?
Well,
I mean, what do you mean by that?
A number one, they went number one in the draft.
First round.
A number one pick, although the Giants had two number ones this year, but he was a number one defensive end, and then the tackle was the number two.
No, who would it be, Joe?
It was in 2010. Jason Pierre-Paul and Linval Joseph.
That's a good one. Yep. No, that's good.
Yeah. They wouldn't be bad if we'd, again have them like that. So, nope, that was it there. And I hope Evan Neal can come around, because with his run blocking there, I think he can make a difference. That running back we signed, how's he with injury? Because he don't shy away from contact.
Scadaboo?
You're talking about the guy they drafted.
Yeah.
Scadaboo.
No, and I think that's one of the reasons he dropped in the draft, talking to people around the league. They're not sure how long he's going to be able to stay healthy running the way he does, Joe. But look, running backs, you don't assume you're going to have him pass the first contract. You assume you get him for the first contract, and everything else you kind of just rolling the dice on anyway. So
I was just saying, how was he in college? Was he there most of the time?
Yeah, he played 12
injured?
games in 2023 and 13 last year. So
and he was
held up.
And he was at Sacramento State before that.
Yeah,
so.
correct. So I'm just looking at his Arizona State numbers. I think the other concern is it's actually the ironic part of your question is I think they look at it more of he held up in his college career. He was utilized a lot. There's a lot of wear and tear on his body. So does that mean that eats away at his longevity in the NFL? That's the concern. I don't think it's so much the concern about can he get through 17 games is if this trajectory continues and he's utilized a lot, though I don't think that's going to happen with the Giants because they have other running backs. That, to me, is the concern, more so about his durability.
Yeah, I think, Joe, you hope since with his running style, since he's not going to be playing 80% of the snaps like he did at Arizona State, he can run with that style and just leave it all out in the field because he's only going to be touching the ball like 12 times a game.
Yeah, he breaks into the secondary. He sees a defensive back or corner. He don't try to swerve him. He goes right for him.
No, he embraces contact, No doubt about that.
I did hear, too, you were talking about the free agents, and I was just saying I did hear about possibly Keenan Allen coming in. I don't know if he's heard that. I think he would be a good
yeah, I mean, well, Allen's got great hands and is a good route runner.
Appreciate the call. Always good to hear from you, man. Don't be a stranger.
There's no doubt about it that, if the Giants want to entertain talking to him, I mean, there's nothing that I've seen report-wise, but he's a free agent, so he's out there. I mean, you could always utilize and add another veteran into the mix.
He's really a slot guy these days, so he'll probably take Wandale Robinson off the field. I'm not sure you want to do that. And Allen did not have the best year last year with Chicago.
Then again, he had a rookie quarterback, so I think you got to maybe take that into consideration.
He also was banged up a bit, too.
He was banged up a little bit.
5 or 6 games, I think. Hamstring, maybe? I don't quite remember, but something to keep in mind going forward.
I brought up, by the way, Scadaboo's Sacramento State numbers just to look at it. He played double-digit games, but the first year he only had 57 carries, freshman. So that was not much. 196 his second year. So the last 3 years, he has had at least 164 carries.
All right, let's go to Chris in Rochester. He's up next. Hi, Chris.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We're good, man.
Hey, so I had kind of off the topic. So I was curious to see how Abdul Carter matched up with his prospect numbers, like with guys like Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Myles Garrett, Von Miller.
Match up how? production-wise.
What kind of grade did you guys have on those other guys, like Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Myles Garrett, and then what grade did you have on Abdul Carter?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't go back far enough to have grades on some of those guys you're talking about, like a Von Miller, Chris. That was before I started, really kind of doing this where you kind of write those things down. Myles Garrett, I mean, he is basically the highest grade you could possibly have for a defensive end. I mean, he's 6'6", 275 pounds, and he runs around like he's 250 pounds. So no one's in Myles Garrett's class. I would put Abdul Carter right in the same category as Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, that type of pass rusher.
Sure. Yeah, I remember the Niners, wasn't it the year before they went 4-12? And then they got Nick Bosa, and the next year they won the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, because I believe that was the year Garoppolo got hurt, right? And they ended up having to go with Mullins and who was the other quarterback? Beathard, I think.
Yeah,
that
C.J.
year.
Beathard.
And they ended up only winning 4 games.
He came in and ignited them. So, and then my other thing is I want to know, because you guys are in the building. I have written down. Evan Neal. So the dude, when you see him in the hallway, he's still 6'6", 340 pounds, and like super athletic. He's got a good attitude. What if he moves inside? I don't see how he's not going to be a stud. It seems like like that guy from Dallas there, Smith.
Tyler Smith,
drafted him as a tackle, and he did crappy out there. They put him inside, and he was like all world.
Well, honestly, I appreciate the call. Good stuff. I don't ever think Tyler Smith was that crappy at tackle. I just think they thought he was going to be better at guard. And I think the issue with Neal, you said he's a super athlete. I think some of the lateral quickness stuff with him is some of the things maybe that are holding him back at tackle and the balance. And Evans talked about, that's some of the stuff he's working on still. But I think those weaknesses are mitigated, to your point, caller, when you move him inside. So I'm with you. I think if he gets the opportunity to play inside, and we'll see if he can get on the field there. I'm sure they'll work him in practice there. Joe and Dave said they're going to work him all over the place, and that'll be one of the spots they work him. I think he has a chance to be a really good player there.
Well, the difference is he doesn't have to worry about as much space when he plays guard versus tackle. So that's good news. But
phone booth.
You got to deal with, though, a lot of power, though, that's coming your way from the interior. So there is a bit of a trade-off. The trade-off is, okay, he doesn't have this immense amount of space, but now you're seeing bigger, stronger guys on the interior, and you can't necessarily always look for the center or the tackle to help you out because, they have their own problems and issues that they have to deal with. So it's not, to me,
and he's also taller, by the way. Taller guards. You have to worry about the guys getting underneath your pads with the leverage, and
you got to crunch down.
You got to bend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why I said it's not so easy and simple that you just throw a guy inside. As far as the grading, just out of curiosity, John, I looked it up. NFL.com grades all the prospects coming out.
And by the way, and Lance Zierlein's been doing that for a while. So.
Yeah. So just if you want to look at it as a basis. So as a means of comparison, Garrett this is their prospect grade. He got a 7.5, and then his next-gen stats was a 97, which is considering an elite category.
And the 7.5 means perennial All-Pro.
In terms of their projection.
That is like a Saquon Barkley-like grade. That's what that is.
Nick Bosa, Pro Bowl talent projection, he was a 7.
That sounds about right.
And then an 89, which is considered good based on next-gen stats. Abdul Carter got the same grade as Bosa, a 7, projected to be a Pro Bowl talent, and his next-gen stats 1 point higher than Bosa, 90, which is in the elite category.
Carter also very different than Bosa. Bosa is more of your big-body defensive end. I think he was 265 at the Combine. Carter was just 250 on his weigh-in. I think that was at his pro day. He didn't actually weigh in at the Combine. So they're different types of edge players, too.
Yeah.
He's more in the Chase Young category. Bring up Chase Young, Lance. I'm out of curiosity where they at him. My guess is that he's going to be right in that same category as those other two guys. And I think he was probably like 255 pounds maybe at the Combine, 260, Chase Young?
Chase Young, 7.37, perennial All-Pro. So he was
higher
than Carter and Bosa, and then 94 for next-gen stats, so higher than both of them as well.
You know what? He's heavy. He's 265. He's heavier than I thought, and he is almost 34-inch arms. All right.
Yeah.
His measurables are very impressive. I understand why he would maybe be graded a little bit higher than those two guys.
Which is also a reminder that nothing is guaranteed and given.
Well, injuries were him,
where you're
of course.
drafted. No, sure.
Yes.
Correct. No, injury certainly played a toll, but I think on top of that, based on what Washington needed out of him, I would not say that he fulfilled where they took him. Now that you look back years later,
I mean, he had a super serious knee injury. I mean, it was more than just a torn ACL. He had a really bad knee injury, and that he's been okay with the Saints since he's come back.
Yeah, no, listen, he's hung around and he's gone from team to team. That's fair.
But he has never gotten back to that. And it just shows you how important athleticism is for that defensive end spot. So you can bounce back at other spots after serious injuries, still be okay. You require to be a good defensive end, Lance, so much explosion, off the snap. And his get-off was one of his biggest traits. And when you have that kind of serious lower body injury, it robs you of some of your explosiveness.
Yeah, well, especially you got to maul over tackles.
Yeah,
I mean, left and
hard.
right. I would say a wide receiver is another tougher position, right? If you can't beat guys and get open, man-to-man coverage, what do you have to lean back on?
All right, Shakes in Baltimore, Maryland. What's shaking? Long time, buddy. How are you?
What's going on, brothers? How y'all doing?
We're good, Shakes. What do you got for us?
All right. So I'm listening to y'all and great content. But wide receivers, I got two things. But
You're still on. You've been calling for 15 years, bro. You're still on wide receivers. I love it.
Man, y'all know where I'm at.
I know.
Yes,
I do.
Quarterbacks, wide receivers, linebackers who we finally got. But for the wide receivers, though, y'all had them ranked low. And to me, I think it's a little wrong.
I think
they're going to be Hold on. I think they're gonna be a little better, and this is why. I get y'all point. I do. I get y'all point, but I equate a lot of that to the quarterbacks. A lot of that is to the quarterbacks, and of course the protection. But again, to me, I equate that to the quarterback as far as calling out signals, protections, all that stuff matters.
No, that's fair.
So anyway. With the veteran quarterbacks coming in, I think they'll be better blocking up, better protection, and they will have these wide receivers going down the field. Now, the problem with Slayton is not his speed, not his separation. He gets open. He just got to catch the ball.
His hands are inconsistent, Shakes. I think that is fair.
Right? And as far as Hyatt, he didn't have a lot of chances last year, but in his first year, you seen he got a lot of deep balls, but he got a lot of deep balls, and I think with this quarterback, Russell Wilson, who y'all know I call Obama is going to give the ball to Hyatt. So to me, I think these wide receivers are going to be way better than y'all think they're going to be, especially with Wando Robinson in the slot.
Okay, so let me ask you. First of all, I had them at number 5 on my group, which was in the top half, so I thought that was pretty good. Who would you consider, if I had you rank the Giants wide receivers, who would you consider to be their number 2?
Slayton is number 2 right now.
Okay. I was wondering if it was him or Wandell for you. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, Wandell is in the slot. That's his position.
Well, he could be a number 2 though.
There are receivers
really
that are
matter.
the slot, and they're still the second best wide receiver on the team. So who do you think the second best wide receiver on the team
number
is?
2 target.
Yes, correct.
Not number 2 wide receiver.
Yes, correct.
I got you.
Yes.
Yeah, I will go with Wanda.
Okay. But it's close though, right?
Yeah. And I think it's Wandell because he will have all those, across the field. He'll get all those dump balls.
He runs the intermediate routes.
Yeah, a lot of balls that he gets to run after the catch.
Now, Shakes, it would not have shocked me, by the way, if they did not trade that extra third-round pick for Dart in this draft, if that extra pick in the middle rounds there could have been a wide receiver. That would not have shocked me.
I wouldn't have been shocked either. And my last thing that I wanted to speak on was Evan Neal, as far as because a couple of last callers or whatever was speaking on him. And here's the thing with him. Never been a problem of power or anything like that, right? He has all these tools. The problem with Evan Neal has been the footwork. And I think inside that booth, you don't have to have much footwork. But I think he's going to have a better season. Now, here's the thing, and here's the kicker that I don't think a lot of people understand or know. When Evan Neal was put in last year, he had the highest run grade out of all the Giants linemen, including Andrew Thomas, and run blocker.
He is a good run blocker, Shakes. No question.
Yeah, well, he has the big
That's
frame.
right.
He should. But, I mean, listen, pass protection is just as important, if not even more important, especially if you want to get the true potential out of those wide receivers that you were talking about and get better play out of your
And
quarterback.
Shakes, I'm happy you called because you're one of the guys that goes back long enough to actually get this reference because you were listening back then. You were calling back then. I was never super optimistic about Flowers being a guard, right? I did not sit here and talk about him moving to guard the same way I talked about Neal moving to guard. One, because Flowers didn't want to play guard when he was here. And there was dedication stuff with him, right? And attitude stuff with him. That stuff's not here with Evan. Like he is into it. He wants to help the team. He played guard in college already. He has a year of experience playing guard. So I really, and again, I want to pump the brakes. I don't want to get too overexcited about it because we haven't seen him do it on the NFL level. I'm with you. I think if given the opportunity, he has a chance to be a starting guard in the National Football League that will help your team win. I'm not saying he's going to be a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro. I think he can be a starting player that can help your team win games.
I'm about to jump off the bridge. I think he can be a Pro Bowler. I think he can be a Pro Bowler. And here's the thing I want from him is, and I know it's not going to be popular with many Giant fans, but I want him to have the job to lose. I want him to have the job to lose. Go ahead and lose the job out. But I want him to have that right there, like, okay, you got that spot. Now make sure you keep it or you maintain it because you got some young guys like Bo and all those guys that can come in and fulfill what you can do. And you got Van Rotten still in the building as well. So there is guards in the building. So, hey, this is your job, but it's your job to lose. That is what I want for him. But, we'll, of course.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Shakes, always a pleasure, my man.
Appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean, with Van Roden, if
Thank you,
Van Roden was not re-signed, I could see maybe a scenario where Evan Neal has the job and it's for him to basically say, you know what, somebody's going to outplay me, or you're just going to run away with it. But the fact that Van Roden's back and played well last season, why would the Giants coaching staff say we're going to move Van Roden to the side to see if Evan Neal will surge ahead and take the job? He's competing for a depth and a roster spot. That's what Evan Neal is competing for.
Let me ask you this something, Lance. Assuming Van Roten stays healthy, let's say he does not get hurt, okay? Does Evan Neal have a chance, any chance, like 1%, to supplant him as the starter at right guard?
No. I don't give him a chance at all. If you're giving me the scenario of Van Roden staying fully healthy,
if Van Roten does not miss
in
any
training
practices,
camp or anything,
he's healthy,
no,
he doesn't miss any time.
I don't see a pathway for that to happen. I see a pathway. Evan Neal could be the backup guard. I could see that pathway.
I'm not going to put it at 0, but I think it's low.
Yeah.
I think you're looking at a 10% chance. You would have to be really dominant in games and in practice, in joint practices. Like he would have to would have to do the equivalent of like bat 1,000, right? Like he would have to be wonderful and fantastic, which by the way, I hope he does. And by the way, at some point this year, there's going to be the chance to start a guard, right? I mean, you're not going to have and if JMS gets hurt, by the way, you know who's going to move to center, right? Probably Greg Van Roten. So that could open up a spot at guard too. Yeah. So at some point this year, there will be a chance for a backup guard to go in and play and start. And you hope that Evan Neal's the guy when that happens, or he's so dominant, to Chake's point, in the spring and summer. And again, guys, this is not going to happen in the spring. So put that aside right away because there's no contact.
There's no pads on. I mean, what are you going to be able to tell?
So we can start having that conversation when you get to the summer.
Yeah, when Evan Neal puts the pads on and goes up against number 1 defensive lineman or even the top tier number 2s and he stands out on a daily basis, John, then you could maybe entertain a little bit of a competition. But until we get there, and that has to happen, by the way, it's not just him getting on the field, it's him getting on the field and making a name for himself. I'm not willing to go so far to say that Van Roten has anything to worry about.
Lance, good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Pearson, you wanted serious predictions.
He put his headphones down.
Well, he wants to go eat lunch.
Well,
so do
quick.
I understand.
Okay.
I'm also hungry. All right, Knicks Celtics get started tonight, 7 o'clock. I'm just going to get hammered today because you got Lance, who's your resident. No one hates the Knicks more than Lance does.
Stop that. I don't think that's a fair assessment.
Oh, yo, you hate the Knicks,
no,
Lance.
I just.
Oh, don't come on. Lean into it. Lean into it. You hate the Knicks, and that's okay.
My viewpoint is that too many Knicks fans are unrealistic. That's my
No,
problem.
you hate the
It's got
Knicks.
nothing to do
You
with specifically
actively
the players
root
of the
against
team.
them. You root against the team actively.
I would not say that's a fair characterization.
That is not true.
That's not a fair characterization.
That is
That's
absolutely fair.
That's not. First of all, it depends on who they're playing. Yeah, when the Bulls are playing the Knicks, I'm not rooting for the Knicks.
Of course I know
So,
you're
of course.
not. Lance.
But if
I've
if
seen you
think-
come in here giddy after Knick losses.
Well, but it has to do with who the fans are that I have talked to and that I interact with on a personal basis. Yes, that could very well influence things. I'm not going to shy away from that. No, but to say that on a daily basis, I'm invested in them winning and losing is completely
you love
off base. No,
you love
that is completely
taking
off
pleasure
base.
in other people's misery. It's one of your
No,
favorite
it
things to
depends
do.
on who the person is. Yes, I would agree. But to say everybody open-ended, I don't think is fair.
I'm going to go to the Celtics fans first, or do you want me to go first, Pearson? I will let you produce this segment. How do you want to handle this? What do you want to do?
What are we doing?
Serious predictions. Knicks
All
Celtics.
right. Well,
You want to go first?
yeah,
Okay, go first.
I think it's 4-1 Celtics.
Okay, when do the Knicks get that win?
Their first game at home.
So you think Game 3 at the Garden?
Yeah.
Okay. Lance?
I think the Celtics are going to sweep them. I think the Pistons, in an alternate universe, easily could have walked away with a victory in 5 games. My biggest concern for the Knicks...
Easily in 5 games? Oh, yeah, but he doesn't hate the Knicks.
Hold on a minute.
Easily in 5 games.
It took a 21-0 run to win Game 1, did it not? Let's go over these things. That's what it took. How many 21-0 runs have we seen over the course of the NBA regular season, if you even look back at every game this season?
What did it take for the Pistons to be close in Game 6?
It didn't take a 21-0 run.
It was a 20-2 run in the fourth quarter.
But it was a far more competitive game than anything that Game 1 showcased.
Oh, that's not
in terms of
every game was close.
No, they all came down to the wire.
They
all came down to the wire.
Get to the series prediction. I'm not.
We got lunch to get to, guys.
So now all of a sudden you don't want to talk about this
No,
situation.
because I don't want to go into the Nick hating like you do.
It does. It's not the Nick hating.
Yes,
See, this is the problem with Nick fans.
You could have
they
easily
can't handle
said
the realistic
Lance,
viewpoint.
if you would have said the Pistons could have easily won the series, I would have been fine.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was pointing.
No, you said they could have easily won in 5 games.
Well, they could have because there were 2 scenarios. First of all, the foul that wasn't called at the end of one game should have sent the Pistons to the free throw line, and then the 21-0 run.
This
so
is the guy who got bad of the bad non-pass interference call at the end of the Saints Rams game, whatever it was, and fans should have get mad about that. I
didn't say. If you
hates them so much.
I did not say that the NBA should give the Pistons a win. That's the reality of the circumstance. A foul was missed. It happens. I'm not losing sleep over it, and nor should Pistons or Knicks fans. That's the nature of the NBA. I'm bringing up though there was contact, legitimate contact to call a foul.
That's all I'm saying. On the air that it probably should have called the foul.
So
that's fine.
There's a distinct difference. I think the Celtics are going to win, and I could see them very well sweeping this series because if they continue to play isolation basketball with Jalen Brunson, I think Boston has better defenders than Detroit does, and that's my biggest concern about this series.
Hey, look, the Celtics are awesome. I mean, in their last 5 playoff series, they're 20-4. I mean, I didn't realize this. Pearson had to tell me last week. They have not gotten to a Game 6 in the last 2 playoffs. They just beat teams in 5 games constantly. The regular season games between the Knicks and the Celtics were not pretty. The Knicks with Karl Anthony Towns are not equipped to guard the Celtics in the way they shoot threes. And I'll give them the gentleman's sweep. I'll give 4-1. I'm with Pearson. I'm afraid it might be the Celtics win the first 3, Knicks salvage a Game 4, and then they lose in 5 in Boston. I would feel good about if the Knicks can get it to 6 and only 2 of the games are blowouts. I would feel good about that series when all is said and done. But if the Knicks can really make this competitive, because no team has really made it competitive against the Celtics in the last 2 years, I would be very impressed.
What was the in-season matchup when they played each other?
Oh, it was bad.
It was
the Celtics annihilated the Knicks in the first 3 games.
4-0.
Yeah, it was 4-0, and the first 3 were it wasn't even close. Celtics won by I averaged 25 points, and then the last game when neither team was really trying. It was a close game, so I wouldn't put too much stock into that.
Well, I mean, the Knicks didn't beat the Cavs, the Thunder, or the Celtics this season. They were 0-10 against all 3 of those teams. Not to say regular season means much of anything at this stage, but I think, once again, if we're dealing with the reality of the circumstance, the concern is...
No, the Celtics are a better team. The Celtics are probably the best team in the league.
No, but I guess I'm looking at it more of a Knicks pathway. The Knicks pathway is Karl Anthony Towns has to be a consistent second force scorer.
Oh, no, he needs to play like an all-NBA player.
Yeah, I mean, that has to happen.
Has to happen.
If that doesn't happen, there's really no point of talking about anything
They're going to put a 6'6" wing on him and Jason Tatum, and he has to dominate the matchup. He has to. Yeah. He has to. Because if he doesn't, he's going to get played off the floor defensively because of all the three-pointers the Celtics take. And that's just the way it's going to go. And that's assuming Jalen Brunson averages 35 a game.
Correct. Plus,
Which he might not be able to because, again, the Celtics defense is so good.
Drew Holiday is now in this series. And listen,
by the way,
Thompson and
Tatum
Schroeder.
and Jalen Brown are good defenders too, by the way.
So, and he's going to see all of them.
And so is Derek White. Derek White's also an excellent defender.
He's like the forgotten player.
Watch how much the defender on Hart helps on other players.
Because they don't respect
by the way,
they leave him
three-point
open.
Here's that's the other key.
Yeah.
Josh Hart has to take like 10 threes a game.
And make them.
Well, no, you know what? He only has to make 3 or 4. Like, that's it. If he would just, but he has to make the Celtics respect him as a shooter.
Or else they're just going to switch off him a lot.
Dude, Porzingis is going to Porzingis is going to guard Hart. He's going to have his back turned to him, and Hart's going to have to make him pay. So to me, and again, I'm just assuming Brunson's going to be great, which is no guarantee, to Lance's point. Hart on offense and then Towns overall. Those are the 2 keys to me for the Knicks to have a chance in this series. Hart and Towns have to make the Celtics pay for the way they're guarding those 2 players because they're going to do everything they can to stop Bridges, Anunoby, and Brunson specifically, and they're going to leave their worst defenders and challenge Josh Hart and Karl-Anthony Towns to beat them, and those guys are going to have to beat them. And if they do, the Knicks will have a shot. If they can't, it's not going to be good.
And the defense and the rebounding, too, which it's just not at the same level and caliber of where it was when Hartenstein was in the mix. I mean, the one guy that they are missing immensely is Hartenstein.
Of course.
I mean, that is a massive hole.
They tried to bring him back.
They have not filled.
CBA rules.
Sure. I mean, listen, it's the rules of free agency. I'm not saying that the Knicks did wrong. They lost him. It's money. It is what it is. But I'm still saying they're still missing him. That's the guy that they really need.
Absolutely.
I just hope both teams have fun.
You hope both teams have fun?
That's all we want.
That's
right?
quite the analysis, Pearson.
I would just hope your Celtics are healthy for the next round. You got 2 guys with injuries. The Holiday's a little banged up.
What are you coming for us or
no,
something?
No. I'm just saying, from a Celtics perspective, injuries have been an issue this year. Porzingis was hurt during the year.
Yeah.
Holiday's coming off a hamstring. Jalen Brown hasn't been the healthiest he's been all year. If the Celtics
no one on the injury report tonight.
Pierce, I know they are.
Yeah.
If the Celtics are healthy, them and the Thunder are the 2 best teams in the league, and they are going to fight it out in a great NBA Finals series. It's going to be a great series if both those teams are healthy, but we'll see if they are. And nice job by the Pacers yesterday, by the way.
No,
and I think it's funny. Knicks fans are like, I don't want to drop to the 4 seed. I was quietly like, are you sure you don't want to drop to the 4 seed? Because then you get and not that the Cavs aren't really good. But they're not the Celtics.
No,
and I would feel much better about playing Cleveland than Boston.
You ask any Celtics fan, they'll tell you how good the Pacers are.
No, dude, Knicks lost them. Pacers are a pain in the ass.
Knicks fans should know from last year.
No, they're an excellent offensive team. Excellent offensive team. All right, we got to go eat. We got to go stuff our faces with some Cinco de Mayo nacho bar and stuff that's going on in there. It's pretty good. All right, thanks for being with us. Hackensack Murray Health Podcast Studio. We're going to need to go to the hospital after the food we're about to eat, folks.
I don't know about that.
Keep getting better.
Okay. I don't know what you're insinuating, but yes.
Little coronary action. Who knows?
Okay, you were taking it to...
There's some queso in there that's delicious. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
I was thinking completely different.
No. I was thinking I wasn't thinking
of coronary arteries. No, I was.
No,
not.
I was not getting the other. No, stop.
I was thinking of the other thing.
They cook good food back there, Lance.
No, I wasn't questioning the staff. I just thought that's what may take you to the emergency room.
All right, that's all we have time for our Big Blue Kickoff Pod presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Bonus basketball content at the end. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.